The text came on Tuesday morning, a stark, unwelcome intrusion into the organized chaos of my life. 2 days before Thanksgiving, while I was meticulously reviewing the holiday staffing schedule for Thompson Culinary Holdings, my phone buzzed with a message from my mother, Carol. "Jessica." It read, each letter a cold, sharp blade. "We've decided on family only for Thanksgiving this year. Find somewhere else to eat. The reservation at the Gilded Spoon is just for the real family." I stared at the words, the familiar ache of exclusion twisting in my gut. My family's dismissive treatment of my career was a constant low-grade hum in the background of my life, but this was a new level of cruelty. The phrase real family felt like a final judgment, a banishment from the inner circle. For a moment, I was just Jessica again, the one who dropped out of law school, the one who played around with food trucks and never settled down. The one who, at 31, was still single and seemed to prioritize business over family gatherings. The shock wore off, replaced by a searing indignation. My mother had uninvited me from family Thanksgiving, then booked the celebration at a restaurant I owned. The Gilded Spoon was my flagship, a beacon of my success that my family was too blind to see. It had earned 3 Michelin stars and was the crown jewel of my culinary empire. To them, it was just a fancy Italian place downtown. To me, it was a monument to 8 years of sacrifice and relentless hard work. Without a second thought, I pulled up our reservation system on my computer. I typed in Thompson. There it was. Thompson, party of 12. Thursday, 4 p.m. Private dining room, under my mother's name. They had requested the premium holiday package, the full extravagant experience, wine pairings, a multi-course menu, and custom floral arrangements. The irony was so thick it was suffocating. My family, celebrating their realness and their traditional success in a space built by their supposedly disappointing daughter, was a level of poetic justice I had never dared to imagine. It was a perfect storm of betrayal and opportunity. The game had officially changed. I stared at the glowing screen, the text message a cold slap to the face. The casual cruelty of my mother's words, "Find somewhere else to eat," and "just for the real family," echoed in the quiet hum of my office. But the sting was quickly replaced by a sharp, breathtaking irony. My mother, Carol, had uninvited me from Thanksgiving and then booked her family-only celebration at my flagship restaurant, the Gilded Spoon. It was a masterpiece of oblivious, unthinking betrayal. I immediately called my general manager, David, a man who had been with me since I opened this place, weathering 1,000 storms. "Good morning, Jessica. Ready for our biggest day of the year?" he answered, his voice bright with the pre-holiday buzz. "David, I need to talk to you about the Thompson reservation for Thursday," I said, my voice flat, devoid of the emotion churning inside me. "Ah yes, party of 12, private dining room, the premium holiday package." Mrs. Thompson seemed so excited when she booked it. "Said it was going to be a perfect family celebration," he chirped, unknowingly twisting the knife. "I need you to cancel that reservation." There was a moment of silence on the other end, the sound of David's cheerful demeanor dropping to a stunned hush. "Cancel it? Jessica, it's Tuesday. Thanksgiving is in 2 days. The food has been ordered, the staff is assigned, the room is set. It's a nearly $3,000 booking. I understand the timing, David. I'll cover any and all unrecoverable costs. I want the Thompson reservation canceled immediately. May I ask why? Is there a problem with the payment? Or is it a personal matter?" He knew me well enough to sense the cold fury in my tone. "It's a personal matter. Please call Mrs. Thompson and inform her that the Gilded Spoon can no longer accommodate their party. I want you to be polite but firm. A scheduling conflict has made their private dining room unavailable. Jessica, finding a table for 12 people on Thanksgiving Day is going to be impossible for them. Everywhere is booked solid." "I'm sure they'll figure something out," I replied, my voice hard as stone. The call ended, and I walked to my office window overlooking the bustling main dining room. My staff, a team of over 200 people across my 7 restaurants, moved with the precision of a well-oiled machine. They knew me not as the law school dropout my family saw, but as the owner of Thompson Culinary Holdings, a successful enterprise that generated millions in revenue. My family had no idea that their rejected daughter owned the very venue they had chosen for their perfect, family-only celebration. The irony was so rich it was almost sickening. It was time for a new recipe, one of sweet, delicious revenge. An hour later, my phone vibrated, and I knew it was David. The caller ID confirmed my suspicion. Jessica. She was not pleased. She demanded to speak with the owner. Wanted to know why we were canceling with such short notice. "What did you tell her?" I asked, a sense of grim satisfaction settling over me. I told her the owner had a last-minute scheduling conflict that required the private dining room. She asked if we could accommodate them in the main dining room, and I told her we were completely booked for Thanksgiving, which, as you know, is the absolute truth. "Perfect," I said, a small vindictive smile on my face. She was quite upset, started crying actually, said this was supposed to be a perfect family celebration and now it was ruined. Said something about her brother, Robert, flying in from out of town specifically for the dinner. A pang of something not sympathy, but a flicker of the complicated love I still held for my family hit me. I'm sure she was upset. I said, the hardness in my voice softening slightly. David. Ever the professional. Pressed gently. Jessica, can I ask you something? Why are you canceling on your own family? I took a deep breath. They uninvited me, David. They wanted it to be family only. And I didn't make the cut. But you are family. Apparently not the right kind of family, I said, the bitterness returning. They know I work in restaurants. They don't know I own them. They think I'm just playing around with a food truck business. The irony is too much to bear. 30 minutes later, the flood of texts began. My brother Michael, a successful lawyer, messaged me first. Hey Jen, heard about the dinner situation. Mom's stressed about holiday planning, don't take it personally. Then my sister, Ashley, a married nurse with 2 kids, texted. Mom told me about Thanksgiving. You okay? You can come to our place if you want. Their messages, while feigning concern, felt like a subtle attempt to smooth over my mother's cruelty, a collective effort to pretend nothing had happened. They all knew it was a deliberate and painful slight, but no one had the courage to confront her directly. Then came the call I'd been expecting. Jessica, something terrible has happened. The restaurant canceled our Thanksgiving reservation. My mother's voice was high-pitched with panic and stress. I feigned ignorance. Oh, no. That's awful. Which restaurant? The Gilded Spoon. We had a perfect reservation for 12 people, a private dining room, and they just called and canceled. They said it was a scheduling conflict. Jessica, you work in restaurants. Do you know anyone who might have availability for Thanksgiving dinner? Somewhere nice? We wanted to show Robert how well the family is doing. I let a small private laugh escape. The woman who had just excluded me was now asking me, the supposed family disappointment, to use my connections to save her perfect image-conscious holiday. The layers of her hypocrisy and a lifetime of subtle demeaning comments were finally laid bare. Something elegant, my mother continued, her voice still laced with a frantic desperation. We wanted to show the family how well we're doing. Robert is always bragging about his kids' accomplishments, their medical residencies, their legal practices, and we wanted to have our dinner somewhere impressive. The Gilded Spoon was perfect. It's that 3-star place downtown, so exclusive. We were so excited to tell everyone where we were dining. I remained silent for a moment, letting the full weight of her words sink in. And you wanted to show everyone how successful our family is. I finally replied, my voice a carefully controlled monotone. Exactly! Jessica, can you make some calls? Maybe someone knows someone who can help us? The time for games was over. The irony had peaked, and now it was time for the truth. Mom, can I ask you something first? Of course, honey. What is it? When you decided to make Thanksgiving family only, what did you mean by that? There was a long, awkward pause on the other end of the line. Jessica, we just wanted to keep things simple. But I'm family, Mom. Of course you are, sweetheart. We thought you might be too busy with work to enjoy a family dinner. The lie was so transparent, so pathetically thin. Too busy, or not successful enough? Jessica, what do you mean? Her voice was laced with a sudden dawning dread. I mean, you wanted to impress Uncle Robert with how well the family is doing. Did you think having me there would hurt that image? Jessica, that's not what this is about. Then what is it about, Mom? I pressed, the anger I'd been holding in finally bubbling to the surface. Is it about the fact that you're embarrassed by my career? By the fact that I dropped out of law school to start a food truck? By the fact that I'm not married with 2 kids and a traditional 9-to-5 job like Michael or Ashley? The silence that followed was heavy and profound. I didn't have to wait for her answer. I already knew. Mom, what do you think I do for work? I asked, my voice softer now, but with an underlying steel. You work in restaurants. You have that food truck business. What else? She stammered. What do you mean, what else? What do you think that food truck business involves? Did you ever bother to ask? I don't know, Jessica. You make food, you sell it. It's not really something I understand. Have you ever even asked me to explain it? Or were you so quick to assume I was a failure that you didn't bother to look any deeper? Jessica, why are these questions important right now? I need help finding a restaurant. I'll see what I can do, Mom. I'll make some calls. But first, let me ask you one more thing. What if I told you that my food truck business grew into something much bigger? How much bigger? What if I told you that I own 7 restaurants now, and that I own the Gilded Spoon? The final question hung in the air, a verbal guillotine ready to fall. The silence that followed was profound. My mother was processing the seismic shift of her reality, the slow dawning horror of her ignorance. Jessica, you know the owner of the Gilded Spoon? How? She finally stammered. I know the owner because I am the owner, Mom. I stated plainly, the words tasting like victory. Thompson Culinary Holdings owns the Gilded Spoon, and I own Thompson Culinary Holdings. My food truck business, as you so casually call it, is a portfolio of 7 restaurants and 2 catering companies. We generated $12 million in revenue last year. I'm telling you that I'm successful, Mom. And I'm telling you that you almost excluded your most successful child from your dinner to impress Uncle Robert. A choked gasp escaped her lips, followed by the sound of her crying. Oh my God, Jessica, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. Are you sorry because you hurt my feelings or because you found out I'm more successful than you realized? The question hung heavy in the air, a final test. Both, Jessica, both. But I'm most upset about excluding my daughter. Success doesn't matter. You're my child. Then why were you embarrassed by my career? Why did you think I was a disappointment? I didn't want the easy answer. I wanted the truth, raw and ugly. She broke down completely. Because I thought you were struggling. I thought your food truck was just a little thing. And I was embarrassed that you weren't on the same path as Michael and Ashley. Robert always brags about their traditional careers, and I thought you would be a liability. That you would make us look bad. Her confession was a bitter pill. But her vulnerability, her deep shame, was a sign of a real shift. I knew she wasn't just a malicious monster. She was a woman trapped by her own superficiality, a victim of her own misguided perceptions of success. And I knew, in that moment, that I had to do something. For my own heart, and for what was left of our family. I took a deep breath. Mom, here's what's going to happen. I will have your reservation reinstated, but it comes with a condition. The party size has to be 13, not 12. And the 13th person will be me. The silence returned, but this time it was different. It was the silence of someone processing an olive branch, an act of grace they didn't deserve. Thursday arrived, draped in the crisp, autumn chill of Thanksgiving Day. The air inside the Gilded Spoon, however, was warm and vibrant, filled with the aroma of roasted turkey, sage, and garlic. I stood near the host's stand, watching my family arrive. My mother, Carol, spotted me first, a flicker of panic in her eyes quickly replaced by a forced smile. My father offered a weak, apologetic nod. Michael and Ashley looked distinctly uncomfortable, as if they were walking a tightrope between family loyalty and the fear of social embarrassment. The private dining room was elegant, adorned with fall flowers and candles, exactly as my mother had envisioned, but the atmosphere was thick with unspoken tension. As the courses were served, each dish a testament to the skill of my chefs and the success my family had dismissed, the conversation felt stilted and hollow. My mother, usually a boisterous storyteller, spoke in hushed tones, her eyes darting between me and the other family members. Then, the moment of truth arrived. My uncle, Robert, a man who built his identity on the success of his children, turned to my mother. Carol, this place is magnificent, so exclusive. How did you ever get a reservation on Thanksgiving? My mother's face flushed. She glanced at me, a silent plea in her eyes. It was her moment to choose. Would she protect her fragile ego? Or would she finally acknowledge the truth? She took a deep breath. Actually, Robert, it's a bit of a story. We were going to have dinner here, but the reservation was cancelled at the last minute. Robert's eyebrows shot up. Cancelled? How terrible. What did you do? We were lucky, she said, her voice stronger now. My youngest daughter, Jessica, was able to get it reinstated. She paused, and then, with a newfound sense of pride, she continued. She was able to do it because she owns this restaurant. She owns Thompson Culinary Holdings. This whole company, it's hers. The room fell silent. Robert's jaw literally dropped. He turned to me, his eyes wide with a mixture of disbelief and genuine awe. Jessica, this is quite an accomplishment. Your parents must have been so supportive of your vision from the beginning. I looked at my mother, who had the grace to look utterly mortified. Actually, Uncle Robert, I said, a wry smile on my face, they didn't quite understand what I was building until recently. They thought I was just playing around with food. The truth hung in the air. A silent judgment on their years of dismissal. As the dinner went on, I watched my mother transform. Her initial shame gave way to a quiet, profound pride. She began telling the story of my company, of how I built it from a single food truck. Her voice no longer hushed but filled with genuine admiration. This wasn't just a meal, it was a reckoning. Later that evening, after the last of the family had departed, my mother pulled me aside. The elegant private dining room felt cold and empty now, the echoes of a tense celebration hanging in the air. Jennifer, she began, using my name instead of the more common Jessica she usually employed in public. Can I ask you something? Why did you give me the reservation back? After everything I said, after excluding you, why did you help me? I looked at her, at the raw vulnerability in her eyes. The woman who had hurt me so deeply was also the woman who had brought me into this world. Because despite everything, you're my mother. And I love you, I said. The words a simple truth. You called my career embarrassing because you didn't understand it. That's ignorance, not malice. And the lesson here, Mom, is that success comes in many forms. Just because someone's path looks different, doesn't mean they're not succeeding. She nodded slowly, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek. I feel like I don't know you at all, Jennifer. You don't, Mom, but now you have the chance to get to know me, I replied, a flicker of hope blooming in my chest. I want to. Will you teach me about the restaurant business? She asked, her voice a small whisper. I'd love to, I answered, a genuine smile finally breaking through the evening's tension. Over the next 6 months, our relationship transformed. My mother, once my biggest critic, became my most enthusiastic supporter. She started volunteering at our annual charity dinner, learning the logistics of staffing and the complexities of catering. She learned the difference between gross revenue and net profit, and understood the stress of a sudden staff shortage. But more importantly, she learned to see me not as a disappointment but as a person, a business owner, and a woman who had built something extraordinary from scratch. That Thanksgiving dinner became a family legend. Not just for the food but for the day my family learned a profound lesson. It was the day my mother realized that her struggling daughter was, in fact, the most successful person at the table. I, in turn, learned that real success isn't just about building a business empire. It's about teaching the people you love to see you clearly, giving them a chance to be better family members than they've ever been before. My mother still brags about having dinner at the Gilded Spoon that Thanksgiving, but now she brags about the fact that her daughter owns it. She brags about the entrepreneurial spirit it took to build something from nothing. And most importantly, she brags about the fact that she almost missed out on celebrating with the most accomplished member of her family. The reservation at the Gilded Spoon became more than a Thanksgiving dinner. It became a moment of transformation, a lesson in love, forgiveness, and the true meaning of success.